Hello there, very good evening. Welcome to another edition of Prime Time News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the News First team. How much of a damage will the debris of the ship that is currently on fire off the coast of Colombo cause to the environment here in Sri Lanka? We've got details of this story and much more coming up on your news tonight. But first, a look at your top stories.
Fire on board the Express Pearl rages on. 425 kilograms of chemicals airdropped to control the blaze. Express Pearl fire is Sri Lanka's worst environmental disaster. A statement from oceanographer Professor Charitha Pattiarachi. India is closely watching the Colombo port city and regional security. A revelation from the Hindu newspaper. Importation of organic fertilizer will lead to dangerous consequences. A warning by the Government Indigenous Medical Officers Association.
Your top story for tonight, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa engaged in an inspection tour of the Usatikayava beach this morning to monitor the measures that are in place to minimize the environmental damage caused by the distressed Express Pearl vessel.
The severity of the environmental damage caused by the debris of the vessel washing up ashore was also observed by the Prime Minister. During the observation tour, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa advised officials to provide relief to fisherfolk who were impacted by the calamity and to take maximum measures to curtail marine pollution.
And to an update on the COVID situation in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka recorded 2,827 new COVID-19 cases today. This brought the country's total tally of infections to 179,750.
Official figures indicate that 2,029 individuals had recovered from the infection, bringing the total number of recoveries up to 148,391. 27,957 infected individuals are currently under medical care. The Department of Government Information confirmed 39 COVID-19 deaths yesterday. 3 deaths had occurred yesterday. The remaining 36 deaths had occurred between the 29th of April and the 27th of May. Sri Lanka's total tally of COVID-19 deaths currently stands at 1,363.
An expert committee has recommended to the Ministry of Health to assess the possibility of administering the first dose of the Sputnik vaccine as the second dose to those who have already been inoculated with the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. State Minister Professor Channa Jayasumana said a pilot project on the matter will be initiated in the coming days.
The Special Technical Committee, which convened last evening, made a recommendation to the Ministry of Health to look into the possibility of administering the first dose of the Sputnik vaccine as a second dose to those who have been inoculated with the first jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine. They said the recommendation was done since they had observed similarities between the jabs. We have therefore directed our attention towards the matter.
Has Russia approved the use of the Sputnik vaccine as the second dose to those who have already been administered the first dose of the AstraZeneca jab?
The Ethical Committee of the Russian Health Ministry has refused to grant approval to a request made by the University of Oxford and AstraZeneca to mix the two vaccines, citing a lack of evidence to support its safety and effectiveness. Reuters reported the AstraZeneca and Sputnik vaccines are developed with 2 different types of viral vectors.
Specialists at the organizations which develop both the AstraZeneca and Sputnik vaccines remain unsure of whether this is possible. Even those in the WHO remain tight-lipped. But the technical committee in Sri Lanka are more knowledgeable than all the others. They administered the vaccine in a haphazard manner and did think far. They continue to disregard the WHO completely.
A large crowd gathered at the Abhyarame temple in Narahempeta today following a rumor that the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine was being administered at the location. However, a tense situation arose when the crowd who were gathered at the location since early morning were not vaccinated.
ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් ගහලා පළවෙනි එක ගහලා දෙන්නේ මට.
The first dose was administered to me on the 21st of February in 2021. It has been more than 3 months. We were asked to return in 10 weeks. If they took delivery of 1.2 million vaccines, they have to administer 600,000 and store the other half. Are we to bring it from home?
ගෙදරින් ගිහලා ගන්නද? මෙච්චර ඔළුව කල්පනා කරන්න බැරිද මේ මිනිස්සුන්ට? දැන් කවුරුහරි ඇවිල්ලා ගිහලා ගහලා තියෙනවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි අපිට පණිවිඩය කිව්වේ. ලාහට ගෙම්බ එකතු කරන්න වගේ.
Administering the vaccine to small groups of people will only aggravate the masses even more. A clear disappointment arises on the government's conduct. Those who advise the government are the ones responsible for this. We request the President to enact a systematic method to administer the vaccine from now on.
How many more AstraZeneca doses are available in Sri Lanka?
Around 90% of the doses have been administered by now. Various companies have pitched the vaccine to us at different prices. However, our intention is to procure the vaccine from either the AstraZeneca company or the Serum Institute directly. Discussions are underway with all parties who are eligible to provide us with the AstraZeneca vaccine. They have provided varying prices, but we do not intend to purchase all. We will only purchase those with a reasonable rate and with a manufacturer authorization. Approval of the NMRA must be granted as well.
ඔවුන්ගේ manufacturer authorization එකක් තියෙනවනේ NMRA ආයතනයේ අවසරය ලබා ගත යුතුයි.
The Ministry of Health says the next phase of the COVID-19 vaccine rollout will commence from Ratnapura and Jaffna districts. A media release issued by the ministry states a vaccination drive will be held in the Ratnapura district tomorrow. Citizens in the Kurunagala, Gaul and Matra districts are currently being administered the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine. Vaccination centres were established at the Purvarama temple in Veherahena Matra and the Uyanwatta stadium. Essential workers were successfully inoculated in Pobe Poddala in Gaul today.
When will the next consignment of vaccines arrive in Sri Lanka?
1 million doses of the Sinopharm vaccine will be released from the manufacturer on the 6th of June. They also notified us that another 1 million vaccines can be dispatched within a week from the 6th of June. We intend to take delivery of around 2 million doses of Sinopharm vaccines within the month of July. We also expect to take delivery of a consignment of Sputnik vaccines as well during the month of June.
The fire on board the Express Pearl vessel continues to rage on a few nautical miles off the coast of the Colombo port. What sort of a damage report are we looking at on the entirety of Sri Lanka? We spoke to the experts about it, and this is what they had to say.
So there's potentially 78 million noodles. You can pick some of it up, you can clean it, but the effect will be there. India and Maldives will receive them in a few years. Maybe in a few years, maybe Somalia, maybe Indonesia. Go along, it will be along the south coast, it will be in Hambantota, and then further on in Trincomalee. It will go to all the lagoons, all the rivers. You'll find them everywhere. The impacts will last for generations. It is the worst environmental disaster that Sri Lanka has experienced today. These are in bags of 25 kilograms, so there's something like 3 million bags. So the idea is try to recover as many bags as possible intact. If that ship sinks, there is 300 tons of oil on that ship. So we have to try to prevent that happening.
The former international vice president of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, Rohana Bevikrama, expressed the following views during the Newsline program aired on our channel last evening.
Obviously, there's a lack of expertise in handling this. To start with, the ship's fire was fought originally by the Ports Authority tugs, which are not firefighting tugs. And then that sort of tug which is in the port is not capable of fighting a major fire. So obviously the equipment used was not suitable to fight a major fire. Secondly, we didn't have the expertise, as I told.
Experts point out that signs of massive environmental damage are now emerging along the country's western coast. Our correspondent reported that certain material on the vessel had washed ashore in Dehiwala, Vallavatta, Bambalapitiya, Crow Island, Pamunugama, Sarakkua and Negombo. Several units, including the Navy and the Coast Guard, are currently involved in clearing the debris from these areas. The Marine Environmental Protection Authority said that this is the sign of a significant environmental disaster in the offing.
Sand is being removed while clearing the plastic debris in the area. When we collect the debris using backhoe machines, the plastic that is collected with sand is dumped into containers and directed to the relevant areas. Thousands of pieces of plastic are gathered at this point.
These fishermen who had set up nets at sea anticipating a good catch had to remove them as fishing has been suspended at the location since the incident. Charred pieces of debris from the ship had been tangled in these nets. The Marine Environmental Protection Authority took steps to prevent chemicals from the burnt vessel from reaching the Negombo Lagoon through the mouth of the Negombo estuary. Meanwhile, the Central Environmental Authority and the Marine Environment Protection Authority has been instructed to identify beaches in which debris from the Express Pearl ship can wash ashore and to designate them as hazardous areas. These instructions were issued along with a series of guidelines and suggestions on managing the hazardous waste emitting following the fire. Accordingly, relevant activities should be carried out using suitable safety devices and equipment by following the correct procedure. Prompt action should be taken to store the waste material in suitable temporary storage rooms or containers. Appropriate steps should be taken to prevent leakage. Appropriate security measures should be taken to prevent outsiders from getting into contact with the waste. Closed vehicles must be used in handling this waste, and the operators of these vehicles should use safety gear. The cost incurred for the cleaning project must be recovered from the relevant parties. Only institutions licensed by the Central Environmental Authority can be commissioned for waste management activities.
What happened to the Express Pearl vessel?
May 9th, 2021, the Express Pearl leaves the Jebel Ali port in Dubai. May 11th, 2021, the vessel reaches Qatar's Hamad port. 15th of May 2021, the Express Pearl reaches the Hazira port in India. Acid leak on the vessel detected in the Arabian Sea. 20th of May 2021, the vessel reaches the Colombo port's outer harbour with smoke emanating from it. Fire erupts on the vessel that evening. 21st of May 2021, Minister in charge visits the Colombo port's pilot station to inquire into the progress of dousing the fire.
What is the current situation of the vessel?
It has been 9 days since the vessel reached the outer harbour of the Colombo port. The fire has not been doused completely yet. 425 kilograms of dry chemical powder was airdropped onto the burning vessel using a Bell 212 helicopter of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
Were there insufficient resources to bring the fire under control?
Views were expressed on the systems that are in place at the Sri Lanka Ports Authority to bring the fire under control.
There are special firefighters in this unit. The City Fire Brigade or the firefighting unit at the Ports Authority are trained to extinguish fires on land. However, there are special units that can engage in these operations at sea. A 12-member team from Netherlands was brought down for this purpose recently. A flight carrying the relevant equipment was also brought in to assist these efforts. The salvage companies have tugboats that can be used especially for firefighting operations. We don't have such tugboats.
Were appropriate measures taken to douse the fire?
It was reported that a fire had erupted on the Express Pearl vessel a few hours after the vessel had entered the Colombo port. Efforts undertaken by the Sri Lanka Ports Authority to douse the fire using water had proven to be futile. Professor Pradeep Jayawardena, attached to the Department of Chemistry at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, said that the usage of water is not the appropriate method of dousing the fire.
When chemicals are burning, water cannot be used to douse the flames. The correct method would be the usage of carbon dioxide or powder. Decisions in this regard have to be made by taking several factors into account, including the part of the vessel in which the fire had erupted. We need to be very cautious when seawater mixed with nitric acid flows into the sea.
Did the vessel arrive at the Colombo port's outer harbour without obtaining permission?
ඉන්දියාවේදී මේ ලීක් යම් ද්‍රව්‍යයක් එළියට යනවා කියලා කිව්වට පස්සේ
When a leak had been reported to the Indian authorities, they had said that they don't have the required facilities to look into that matter. They didn't inform our port about this, but they didn't come into the port. They were in the outer harbour. When they had anchored in the outer harbour, we received information stating that a fire had erupted. As an Asian hub, we are an entity that engages in commercial activities. Therefore, once we were informed about such an incident, we took immediate steps to bring the fire under control. It took 3 days. Unfortunately, the fire had occurred due to the change in the weather and also due to strong waves. When any vessel is entering our port, our harbour master and the Sri Lanka Ports Authority officials examine whether those vessels can enter our port. They inform us at the outer harbour. They had not informed the Ports Authority even when they had left the Indian port.
අනිත් ඉන්දියාවේ වරායෙන්වත් පිටත් වෙනකොට අපිට කිසිම දැනුම් දීමක් කළා නැහැ අපේ වරාය අධිකාරී.
Were Sri Lanka Ports Authority officials informed about the leak or not?
Andrew Leahy, the director of MTI Network, which represents the operators of the vessel, expressed the following views to News First.
We've just been speaking to the Sri Lankan Navy and we're just waiting for a report back from the salvors. Look, we haven't gone through all of the paperwork in the lead up to the incident. Our focus is very much on the incident itself and really making sure that the fire's put out and then making sure that the vessel is stable and safe. There will be an investigation once the fire is put out, and I'm sure that all of the permissions and protocols and notifications will come to light then.
Issuing a statement, the MTI network said that the hull of the vessel remains structurally intact despite the fire.
Who will bear responsibility for this incident?
We are taking relevant steps concerning the insurance company, the damage caused to our coast and the marine environmental destruction. We will take steps to obtain the required compensation over this matter.
When a vessel transporting oil is involved in an accident of this magnitude in the United States, they usually claim compensation up to around $5 to $6 million. We too can claim such compensations, but when incidents like that happens in our country, politicians tend to enter into agreements with the owners of the ship. Through these underhand agreements, our government will agree to obtain only around $400 to $500 million as compensation after following the legal procedure. They will pocket $1 to $2 billion as well. This is the political culture we have in this country. Our politicians do not think collectively as a nation. Therefore, we are facing a risk of losing these compensations.
Diverse views are being exchanged on the recent decision to allow the Express Pearl vessel to enter Sri Lankan waters after it burst into flames recently. How did foreign nations react to such incidents in the past? In 2010, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico caused massive environmental damage. The incident saw an 87-day oil spill that spewed 134 million gallons into the Gulf of Mexico. The issue was settled after a federal district judge approved the largest environmental damage settlement in United States history, amounting to $20.8 billion. Meanwhile, more recently, Egypt has sought a compensation of $916 million from the owners of the Ever Given vessel that blocked movement along the Suez Canal for nearly a week in March. UK Club, the insurer of the ship, had said that the compensation claim included $300 million each for salvage bonus and loss of reputation. Egypt has impounded the vessel in the vicinity of the Suez Canal until the compensation is paid. What action has Sri Lanka taken over this incident? The empty New Diamond fuel tanker had caught fire in the eastern seas of Sri Lanka on the 3rd of September. The owners of the vessel had been asked to pay a compensation of 450 million rupees for the efforts to douse the fire and also for environmental damages. Although the firm had paid a portion of the payment, details are yet to be revealed on the balance payment. The recent incident that occurred in Sri Lankan waters is the Express Pearl vessel. Several leading shipping companies had been transporting cargo on the vessel that had been traveling under the Singaporean flag. What action will be taken on the damages caused due to this incident? What is the compensation that would be sought over this matter?
Here are some of the views expressed regarding investments at the port city during an online media briefing held yesterday.
Is there that concern that your project, given the perception that it is linked to China, might deter some countries and some investors to, come in and put their money?
There is no exclusivity. All investors are welcome. As far as investment into the port city is concerned, we welcome all investors, irrespective of the source of their business or their funding. No, in fact, I think I'm right in saying that there have been serious inquiries by investors from other countries, from Western countries as well.
Of course, so far we have had several very important investors who have come to Sri Lanka and had a look at the port city. They have been quite interested in what's going on there. In fact, the school that we are promoting there would probably be having a European name on it. The hospital that will come up there will probably have a name which is which will come as a surprise, but at the same time I probably think it will be a name that many Europeans would be very familiar with.
The Hindu newspaper has reported that India is keeping a close eye on the port city project and its security implications. The report quotes a government source saying, quote, "If it is only a commercial venture, then that is their choice. We will continue to engage Sri Lanka while watching our national interest," end quote. According to the report, India will abide by the benchmarks including transparency, openness and financial responsibility and no offshore havens. The source had told the Hindu that India expects the new port city to respect the territorial integrity of Sri Lanka and respect international norms.
Meanwhile, a ceremony to lay the foundation stone for the new head office of the People's Bank was held under the auspices of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa yesterday. The foundation stone was laid in a plot of land located near the Ibambala junction. The plaque of the building was unveiled using state-of-the-art technology by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, who joined the event via a video call.
දුරස්තව තාක්ෂණය ඔස්සේ සහභාගී වන අවස්ථාව.
Even though the entire world is going through a pandemic, we are still hopeful about the future of the country. Because of that, we hope to commence massive construction projects like this. The new 23-storied building will comprise of 3 basements and will be constructed under the green concept. Accordingly, the People's Bank head office, which was located at the Chittampalam M. Gardner Mawata for 44 years, will be moved to the Ibambala junction in Colombo in the near future.
A discourse has arisen on moves to utilize properties in Colombo for various projects. This is against a backdrop in which valuable land and properties are being given for investment projects after being brought under one authority. These moves are taking place in line with a proposal tabled before the Cabinet on the 17th of May. While the People's Bank head office is being transferred to another location from its 44-year-old building, the Cabinet paper seeks to draw investments to the Sina restaurant set up on a 1.37-acre plot of land in close proximity to the building. This is a valuable land property located near the Lotus Tower. On previous occasions, it had been proposed to hand over lands along Dr. Vijayawardena Mawatha to individuals involved in the casino business, such as James Packer, for the construction of hotels. What are the proposed investment projects? Following the approval of the Cabinet proposal, Selandiva Investments Private Limited was set up for land projects in Colombo as a tool to attract investments. Selandiva Holdings Special Purpose Vehicle will operate under this entity, which is completely owned by the Treasury. The Special Purpose Vehicle had been set up for investment projects. What are these valuable properties? The Grand Oriental Hotel and Yoke Building, Gafur Building, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Postal Department Head Office have been classified as the Colombo Fort Heritage Square investment portfolio. Meanwhile, the Sina restaurant along Dr. Vijayawardena Mawatha, the mega mixed development project of the Water's Edge Hotel and the International Coordination Center in Kankasanturai in Jaffna are classified under the immovable property development investment portfolio. Further, the Hilton Colombo and Grand Hyatt are also to be brought under the SPV and will be given away to investors.
මහජන බැංකුව ඉවත් කර ගැනීමත් සමග ඒ ගොඩනැගිල්ල සහ ඉඩම හිස් වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ වෙන විට කොළඹ පිහිටලා තියෙන ගුවන් හමුදා මූලස්ථානයේ නාවක හමුදා මූලස්ථානයේ ඇතුළු ආයතන ඒ තැන්වල.
When People's Bank was relocated, it left the building and the land area vacant. It has been reported that moves are underway to shift the Air Force and Navy headquarters to the Army headquarters in Palawakta. In addition to that, there are reports that the police headquarters is to be transferred transferred from its location in Colombo Fort. Therefore, several land areas are becoming vacant in Colombo within a short period. Once that happens, who will receive the ownership of the lands and for what will they be used? These lands are under the Urban Development Authority. Therefore, the Urban Development Authority must decide on these matters. When there is such a possibility, they have set up a private entity by the name of Selandiva. With the intervention of the government and the central bank, these lands and buildings will belong to that entity. If we examine the location of these land areas and properties, we can observe that they might have some connection to the port city. If these lands fall under the Urban Development Authority, then they will be responsible to the people. But when a private entity is set up, they don't have to report matters to Parliament or reveal matters to the people. They are not accountable to the Parliament or the public. This paves the way for a land and property fraud. Valuable properties in Colombo will fall into the hands of the Chinese company attached to the Colombo port city and other racketeers.
Today the government is only left with China's aid. At present, the ministers, MPs and authorities of the government are over-dependent on China. They continue to plan which resources will be sold to China tomorrow. Besides handing over the port city to China, the government is engaging in another treacherous activity by giving cabinet approval through a cabinet paper to build a highway from Paliagoda to Aturugiriya to Port City as a build-operate-transfer project. Who has been handed the contract? It's given to the same company that has the ownership of the port city without any sort of transparency. We would like to ask the government, is the toll which is charged from the highway given to this company? A discrete set of actions are taken to hand over lands in Colombo to China. First, the Urban Development Authority transfers these lands to the Selandiva company, which the government has 100% ownership of, and after that its ownership is given to special companies that are under its purview. Then they are classified into 3 categories and are invested in the stock market as investment portfolios. Finally, China acquires them. The government that came into power is selling off valuable economic resources to China, causing our economy to collapse.
Let's now cross over to a short commercial break. We'll be right back on the other side.
Bellboy's got you covered. Download Bellboy today to get all your household appliance fixing and repairs done. Now available on Android and iOS. Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk. Welcome back to the news. The Bangladesh Bank, which is the central bank of Bangladesh, recently approved a principal $200 million currency swap with the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. What exactly is the significance of a bilateral currency swap and what is in it for Sri Lanka? Let's take a look.
What is a currency swap between two countries?
A foreign currency swap is an agreement to exchange currency between two foreign parties. The agreement consists of swapping principal and interest payments on a loan made in one currency for principal and one interest payment of a loan of equal value in another currency.
What is the arrangement between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh?
The Bangladesh Bank, which is the country's central bank, in principle approved a $200 million currency swap agreement with Sri Lanka to help our country boost its depleting foreign exchange reserves. As at the end of March this year, a few days after marking its 50th anniversary of its independence from Pakistan in 1971, Bangladesh's foreign reserves stood at $43.4 billion, approximately 11 times of Sri Lanka's foreign reserves of $4 billion reported during the same period. This is the first time Bangladesh has extended a helping hand to another country and also the first time that Sri Lanka is borrowing from a SAARC nation other than India. Even amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, Bangladesh's economy grew by 5.2% during the financial year of 2020, recording the highest GDP growth in the South Asian region. The country's gross domestic product last year was approximately $330 billion, 4 times Sri Lanka's GDP of $81 billion.
The lack of fertilizer for farming in Sri Lanka has not yet been addressed. Although fertilizer was issued in certain areas from time to time, farmers point out that they have not received adequate stocks for their crops.
Farmers of Gabbela village in Udispattuwa
who engage in chili cultivation continue to face difficulties without chemical fertilizer. These farmers have cultivated Naimeris for a living for more than 5 years. A large group of these farmers engages in cultivation targeting foreign markets. Some farmers point out that their cultivations have been completely damaged and they are forced to switch to alternative cultivations.
We are unable to get the harvest we used to get due to lack of chemical fertilizer. We grow crops in cultivation bags. These plants do not grow with carbonic fertilizer. We engage in cultivation after taking loans and mortgaging our jewelry. The banks write to us requesting loan settlements. We face all these difficulties. All our activities get disrupted when unwise decisions are made. One chili pod is sold for about $1.5 in the Maldives, but in Sri Lanka it costs only cents. That is okay if someone is bringing foreign revenue to the country. We use liquid fertilizer on these crops. Without that, how can we cultivate crops?
Farmers who used to earn close to 100,000 rupees per month now find it difficult to even earn a meager sum of 1,000 rupees each month.
A galaxy of superstar Sri Lankan personalities from all walks of life, sharing their stories, their experiences, their success and even their failures. With thousands of young Sri Lankans filled with ambition and hope.
The Gammatha Vipos Leadership Series,
where leaders of today shape leaders for tomorrow.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. I'm Charlene Benedict for the News First team with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Taraka Gabriel. Take care and God bless.